Hi there, it's Cheryl, and guess what? It's time to start thinking about Easter cards. I know it's like a month and a half away, but you have to think of these things well ahead of time. So this is the card I'm going to demo today, and it has this nice sentiment on the inside and some more flowers. So this is what we're going to need. This is a 5.5 by 4.25 inch card, so we need a piece of cardstock cut to 5.5 by 8.5 and then scored and folded at 4.25. Now I wanted to show you, see that edge there? I've got a little crumply edge. That means that it's time to replace my blade and my trimmer. But if this happens to you, all is not lost. Just take an emery board and just file the edge just like that, and that takes all that little fuzzy stuff off the edges. Now if you tend to cut in one direction with your trimmer, you can start using the blade in the opposite direction, or just take the blade and turn it around and in your trimmer, or you can replace the blade. Let me move some of these things out of the way here a little bit so I can bring my trimmer in here. And so it's the cutting blade is this little dark gray one, and on the back it's got a nice little storage area here, and I keep my spare blades here. You see I keep quite a few in here. But as soon as you start seeing that, if you don't keep extras around, that's when you know it's time to reorder, because you'll get a little bit of use out of it doing using my little tip. Oh, get back in there. This little thing can pop out. So there we go. So it's just very easy to do. Just slide your cutting blade all the way down the bottom here, and there's a little, I'll show you once I get this out, and it just pops out like that. But there's this little thing here, little opening here. You just take your new blade and just push that right in there, pop that right in, and there we go. Got a brand new blade, and we're all set. So I just wanted to share that with you, just in case you don't know these things. Okay, so we've got our paper. We've scored and folded it. That's from Heavyweight Whisper White. I have another piece here. This is just plain Whisper White, and this is 5.5 by 4.25. We're going to trim this down, though. We're going to cut a 1/4 inch off each side later on, so it's going to be smaller than that. I have another bit of scrap here of the Whisper White Thick that we're going to stamp our dove on, and that came from the Flowering Dogwood Branches. That's by Heartfelt Creations. It's the stamp and the die set. And we have a piece of gray granite. That's 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And then Granny Apple Green, and that's 4 by 5 1/4. And those are going to be mats on the front of our card, and we're going to have just a little tiny edge showing here. So just a little bit of color around the edge. So we'll be using that. And then also from Heartfelt Creations is the Oakberry Lane collection. I'm using a piece from here with the sky, with this, got some nice clouds look in it. We'll be using that on the front of the card also. And we'll cut that out with a die from the Album Tags and Accents. If you don't have this, any decorative ovally shaped die would work just as well. But that's what I'm using on this one, and that's the one that looks like this. It's just plain. There's no There's no little lacy edge on it at all. So let's see what else. Oh, I have my pretty floral die here. It's already set up on my Stamparatus. I'll be using the Stamparatus to stamp that, and that came from His Grace from Stampin Up, and that's this stamp right here. We'll be using this stamp also for the inside of the card, and He is Risen. That goes on the front, and on the inside I also have May His Precious Gift Be Yours, and that's this one right here. The inks we're going to be using are Pineapple Punch, Granny Apple Green, Balmy Blue, and Gray Granite. I have my little tray here with my clear glitter in it. We'll be glittering up the dove, and then I have my blender pen from Stampin Up. This is a wonderful thing if you don't have a bunch of markers to use. You can use this with your dye inks, and it can take the place of having a bunch of markers around. I just get a set of these blender pens, and I'll be demonstrating that as we go. Some Stampin Dimensionals, and I have my Tombow glue, and I think that's all I need. I'm bound to have forgot some. Oh, sponge dauber. We need a sponge dauber. So, if you hear a cat crying in the background, that's my kitty Stash, and she thinks she needs to be in here with Pearl and I. Pearl is my border collie, and she's very unhappy, but she'll get over it. I can't have her here because she'll be climbing all over everything. Okay, so I'm going to do the dove first because I want to get that cut out, and I'm going to put the glitter on before I put it on the card. Often the glitter is an afterthought for me. I get done with the card and say, oh, you know, that could use some glitter on there, and then I'll put the glitter on and then just shake it off the whole card. But I'm just going to do the dove by itself on this video. And there's my dove stamp, and I'm going to stamp that with the Gray Granite ink. I'm using Gray Granite all through this instead of where I would use Memento, the Tuxedo Black, because I just wanted a little bit softer in this card. So there's my dove stamped. I'm going to add just a little bit of the Balmy Blue to it, and you see I have a little bit of a puddle here squeezed out. Now on the old Stampin' Up stamps pads, you used to squeeze the top like this, and you'd get that little thing of ink going there like a little palette. But on the new ones, it's best to squeeze it from the back. Get a good squeeze right in the center, and that gives us some nice ink there to work with. And I'll use my blender pen, and I'm going to just pull some down, pull it out here, and swirl it around a little bit, get some of that solution from this mixed in with it, because I want it a pretty light blue color. If I want it dark, I just go right in that puddle there and right to the card. But I want to have this just a little touch of blue in here, and just anywhere there would be shadows, like along the wing here. You know what? Let me bring the camera in closer so you can see what I'm... Okay, that's better, I think. I'll try to keep my hands out of the way. And I'm going to turn this as I'm working. And go right along there. I'm going to do just a little bit right here along its body, and just a little bit on the sides down near the bottom here where there would be shadows by his feet. And then I want a little bit of that blue in all these little swirly tail feathers. And you see I'm not being real exact where I'm putting this, because we're going to die cut this then. And then the same on the wings. Wherever it's all swirly on the wings, I'm going to add just a little blue there. Just a touch. Okay, and then that's it for the shading and coloring on the dove. So I'm going to go cut this out right now, and then we'll be back. The pen, when you're done with it, just scribble it off. I'm just going to scribble this off on the side here. Make sure all the color has come out of that, because we'll be using yellow and green in it next. Okay, so there. That's all scribbled out and ready to go for the next time. So I'll be right back with my die cut dove. So I did forget to tell you something I'm using. I'm going to be using the Art Glitter Dries Clear Adhesive too, for putting our glitter on. So I'm just going to put some of this just all over here on the tail. Give him a nice glittery tail. Okay, that looks pretty good. And all down the edge of the wings, just on that little tip there. And the same over on this side. Let's see, where can I hold? There we go. I found a little spot with no glue to hold it. I'll just put glue all on there. Oh. Get him all glittered up. And then I can put him aside and let him dry while we finish the rest of the card. Okay. So there he is. Put him over the side. Put that out of the way. Cap my glue. Always cap your glue. Don't let it sit around with no cap on it. Oh, here's another thing I forgot to tell you. We're going to be using this punch, and this is the Pretty Label punch. That's a Stampin Up product too. Okay. So let's, you know what, I don't have a piece of paper for that punch. I could have sworn I had one, but I guess I do not. I'm going to be using just plain Whisper White for that. Okay. We'll bring in our Stamparatus. And I have my flower border all lined up on here. And this is the piece that was 5.5 by 4 1/4. And I can take this piece out, and I keep a little piece of very thin craft foam in there, even when I do my rubber stamps, because that seems to help. I've heard a lot of people complain that there's a little problem with this when you get close to the edge, that it doesn't stamp very well. That's also why I'm going to be trimming 1/4 inch off the edge, because I want, see this bit here, that would be very, very close to the edge of my stamping platform. So I'm going to stamp it, and I'm going to trim that little bit off. Okay, so we'll ink that up with the gray granite. Oh, I keep bumping the camera. I think I might need to raise it up a little bit. Okay, so there we go. Stamp that. And that looks like a nice impression. I don't have to stamp it again. if it wasn't nice, I could always just stamp it again. And I just turn the paper around, and now we're going to stamp this side. Ink that up again with the gray granite. And stamp. And there we go. So I'm going to color this in. I'm using the Pineapple Punch and the Granny Apple Green on these. So there's no blending or shading. These are kind of tiny little images. And I have my little puddle out here already. And I'll just take my blender and just start coloring in the flowers, just like that. Then after I'm done with that, I'll just rub it out a little bit. I have a little scrap paper off to the side, you can't see it. And I'll go to the Granny Apple Green and use my little palette of color here that I have, and just color in all the leaves just like this. You can vary the shade of the green on there if you want. You can make some of your flowers a little darker, a little lighter. So you can do some shading, but these are just so tiny that it's hardly necessary to do it. So I'm going to finish that up. And I'm also going to cut out this piece here off camera, and I need to stamp this on a piece of paper. I need a piece of Whisper White, and I don't know where one got to, so I'll get a piece of Whisper White. I'm going to stamp this, and then we can punch it out with the die, with the what is this, the Pretty Label punch. So okay, I'll be back. This will be all colored in. I'll have the other piece cut out, and we'll just continue on. Okay, so everything's colored in on here now, and I'll bring in my Stampin Trimmer, and we'll trim off that 1/4 inch all around the edge. Just butt that up against the top here, and cut a 1/4 inch of each side. Now I like to cut upward. Oh, I didn't have that down. There we go. That way it pushes my paper against the stop here, and it won't go wandering off somewhere. Okay, so there we go. That's all cut. And I also stamped and colored in. Oh, I didn't do the green on here. Oh well. Pretend there's green on there, on the leaves, because I'm just going to keep going. And we can start actually putting the card together now. So we have this piece, I have that piece that's cut, that'll go right there. And I have these 2 mats. I have my Stampin Dimensionals. Oh, let's do the tag too. You see what I did? I got that into my yellow ink pad, but that's okay because that won't be showing. That's the side I want right there. I also made a mistake on the back. I got a little oopsie there. So I'll just turn this so that the hole is facing me. And I can just center that and punch. Oop. That always scares me a little bit when that pops out. I know it's going to do it. It does it every time. But it still scares me a little bit when it pops. And I'm going to take my sponge dauber. I'm just going to add a little bit of the Balmy blue around the edges. I use this particular punch because I thought it kind of looked like a cloud. And then I have this piece that has sky and it looks kind of like clouds. Plus, it kind of echoes the look of the edge here on this. So that was my thinking of why I chose this particular punch to have my sentiment on. Okay, I've got the sides all sponge. I'm going to just add just a little color. Bring that in just a little bit. And there, that's ready to go on the card. So I'm going to be using the Tombow glue now because I have to do some centering on these. So I'm going to put these three pieces together first. So I'll start with this one. Now if you want to conserve on your cardstock, on these two bottom layers, you could cut this center out and put that piece in your scraps. You could probably use that later on sometime for something else. But I'm just going to do the full piece. That's a little tip I often use when I'm working with the foil papers or the mirror papers, because they're a little bit more expensive, so I like to use as much of those as I can. And each one of these is just centered. We have just that tiny little bit showing all the way around here. You can see just a little edge there, 1/16 of an inch. Just adds a little something something to it. Now I'll put this down on my card base. And center that. And we have 1/8 inch of the white showing all the way around here. And then this piece will be centered side to side, but I'm going to move it just a little bit up towards the top. I mean, just the tiniest bit to because we'll be putting this on the bottom. So that kind of balances it a little bit better on the top to bottom. If you forget and center this, it's not going to be the end of the world. Okay. So centered side to side and just a little bit high on the card. And then I'll put this piece on. Our He is Risen sentiment. This stamp set has some nice, I should probably put that right side up, huh? And I'll put that right here on the bottom and center that side to side. And then I can add my dove. My sparkly dove. That looks like it's pretty well dry, but this has a lot of nice sentiments. It says, God so loved the world that John 3:16, they gave his only begotten Son, and may his precious gift be yours. He is risen, which we're using here. Rejoicing in his grace. It's a very pretty stamp set. Okay, so we're going to use some dimensionals on the dove. We're going to pop him up a little bit. We have some dimension going because of the layers here. And it may not show so much on the video, but when you see it in person, it Makes a big difference. Okay, and I think I need a little piece there on his tail. So let me just snip off a little bit. Let's see, along the edge here. And don't throw away these little edge pieces. Boy, they come in handy. I could have used one of the mini dimensionals, but I have these out on the table, so I'm just going to use these. And guess what? As soon as I have this down, our card's finished. How sweet is that? Didn't take long at all. And I'll just center the dove here. And there we go. We've got a beautiful Easter card all ready to go out in the mail. And this should go in the mail pretty well because there's a little dimension, but not a whole lot. By the way, if you send dimensional cards through the mail, sometimes they take longer to get there, because in the U.S. anyway. I don't know about other countries, because depending on how thick it is, it turns out they have to hand cancel them. Yeah, I sent my daughter-in-law a birthday card, and it had quite a bit. It was a lilac card. You know, if you know the lilac collection from Heartfelt Creations, it had lilacs on it, and it took, I allowed a week for it to get there. It took 2 weeks to get to her, and she lives only maybe 150 miles away. I could have walked to her house and hand delivered it. But anyway, make sure you allow a little extra time if your cards are pretty thick and dimensional. So there it is. If you've liked this video, be sure to hit that like button down below. I do check. If there are any questions or comments, leave those down below too, and I will get back to you. If there are any Stampin' Up! Products that you'd like to purchase, that would be wonderful if you used me as your demonstrator. And you can go to either my Facebook page or my blog, and there's a shop with me or shop something button. There's shop buttons on both of those pages, and that'll take you right to the Stampin' Up! Website, and I will automatically be your demonstrator when you use those. As always, I'll have all the materials that I use listed down below. So y'all, take care, stay safe, and happy stampin'.